Okay, here we are. We're back on camera. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming back after the break. Doesn't always happen, but we're glad that it did with you. Let's move on to our next discussion, bid strategy and teaming. Let me ask you a question. Let me start with a question. Do you like role-playing? Let me ask another question. Have you ever done any role-playing? Maybe you were younger. I don't know, last week. You got into a fight with your brother or sister. So mom and dad made you play each other. You were your sibling was you, so you could see each other's worlds from each other's perspective. I don't know how it worked out for you. It would usually devolve into more taunting and name-calling. Donkey face, doo-doo head. But this isn't that. These are professionals who are going to bring to you a role play, and they're going to play a company group having an internal discussion on bid strategy and teaming decisions. Now, this mock discussion will illustrate the importance, again, of clarity, consistency, and early availability of the acquisition strategy, statement of work requirements, and evaluation criteria to the industry decision-making process on bidding and team arrangements, competitive analysis, pricing, and so on. And to lead our motley group of master thespians, let me introduce Kim Pack, Vice President of Wolf Den Associates.
Thanks, John. Good morning. I'm Kim Pack. I'm a Vice President at Wolf Den Associates, as John said. And today I am playing your moderator. Now, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Mike. We're going to introduce the panel, and then we'll set it up.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Michael Matichak. I'm with Ardent Management Consulting. We have had a Schedule 70 for almost a decade, leveraged about 5 or 6 BPAs across the Fed civilian industry, and a PSS schedule. And I will be playing the Chief Financial Officer, the person who says no to everything and doesn't give anybody any money.
We look so forward to that. My name is Jackie Everett, and I'm Vice President and Industry Sales Leader at DXC, and I'm responsible for everything new business that we do in civilian. So that's RFI responses, RFPs, strategy, what makes sense investing our dollars going forward, what I get to say no to, what I get to say yes to. So it's an interesting thing. So today I will be the VP and account lead for eCell Incorporated in our role play.
And I'm Jeremy Arnsdorf with Jefferson Solutions. We're a woman-owned small business. We have a professional services schedule, and on our second one, as well as a HCATS, small business IDIQ. And I'm going to be playing the delivery or operations executive for eCell.
Hello, I'm Dan Ford. I'm a vice president with Capgemini. So Capgemini is a global company. We do mostly commercial work, but we have an IT 70 schedule. We have a PSS MOBIS schedule, and some GWACs as well. Today, at Capgemini, I manage our portfolio in national security and defense. And today I'm going to be playing the business development or capture lead.
Great. Thank you. Thank you to the panels. We would also like to thank GSA and our 2 leads from ACT-IAC, Eileen Coble and Kitty Klaus, for working with us to bring you this session. This session today, we have 2 role play scenarios. Each of those will be a gate review, just at different stages. And during these gate reviews, we're going to stop in the middle. We're going to give you guys a chance to participate with us, so pay attention. We're going to be asking you guys questions. And then we're going to let you guys ask us questions during the RFI scenario. So we'll stop in the middle. You guys can send those questions in or ask those questions. And then we'll go to the second scenario. All of that we will be leading into bringing an opportunity forward. So for those of you who haven't heard the term gate review, a gate review is where our capture or business developer, capture executive or business developer, brings a deal, brings an opportunity forward to the executive team to get buy-in and funding. So the whole idea of this review is to bring enough information forward to actually either move it forward or in some cases kill the deal. And with that, let me go ahead and get the stage started. Okay, so for this one, we have background information. Important for you guys to know, they're going to be going right into the gate review meeting. And as part of that, there's a draft SOW that just came out. Excuse me, it's been placed on GSA eBuy. for professional services. They're allowing 3 weeks turnaround for this draft for us to put in comments. It provides background, objectives, Section C or the SOW, and the period of performance. So that's the information we receive. There are 7 functional areas. Those functional areas are everything from project management support, change management to supply chain management. So those are all of the pieces that are listed in the SOW. The period of performance is 1 base year with 3 one-year options. With that, let me hand it off to our VP and account lead. And just as a reminder, the role play, here's the organizational chart of who's playing what role. Okay.
Thank you, Kim. So in eCell, there are 3 of us that are held accountable in signing off on the deals. And so our delivery lead, Jeremy, myself as the account executive, and Michael's the CFO. So do we have enough to have a quorum? I think I see finance delivery. Capture's here. Who's going to present? Okay, capture manager, why don't you give us an overall of what you want to talk about today?
All right. Well, thank you all for coming out to my meeting this morning after the holiday. So this is a strategic opportunity at GSA for vegetable management support services. There's a draft SOW on the street, and GSA is a very important client of ours. It's 1 year base plus 3 options. They didn't indicate the contract type, but I've heard that it may be firm fixed price. We still don't know what vehicle's coming out on, but they did give us 3 weeks to respond. So we've got plenty of time to respond. And I've listed out on the slide kind of where we're strong and where we're weak. But let me open it up for questions.
Yeah, I think 3 weeks is pretty generous, don't you, to respond?
I think so. And I think that will help us provide a very detailed and thorough response.
So do you know the type of response they're looking for, especially the level of detail, right? We've got about 4 or 5 other bids going on. Resources, I think, were a little constrained last I checked.
So they asked for comments, and they also asked for a general capability statement. But in my mind, that's our opportunity to really shine and put our full effort in to make sure we provide a tremendous response.
What about the RFP? Did they mention when that might be released?
So this is a new program. Vegetable Management Support Service is a new initiative within GSA. So we haven't seen if it's really, is it really happening this year? It could happen next year. But if everything goes according to plan, the RFP could come out within 3 months.
3 months. Wow, that's pretty quick. Are they going to hold an industry day? It is a new initiative, as you just said, right?
They have not indicated any dates or any announcements on industry days.
How long have you been tracking this one, Dan? As long as it takes you to play a couple rounds of golf?
Well, golf is important, but I have been tracking it. To get to the first point where I have indicated a red category, the call plan and actually getting in front of the customers has been difficult. The acting Deputy Assistant Vice Commissioner, Mr. To-Go, he has been difficult to track down. Now, I have heard that he likes to go to the Starbucks coffee over on 17th, so I will be hanging out over there and seeing if I can get in touch with him. But that is somewhat of a weakness right now.
Getting back to the response, is there anything that you need out of finance for this response?
Right, so on the pricing, I list pricing as yellow, mostly because I'm not quite sure what they're looking for, but they have asked for a ROM.
Oh, a rough order of magnitude?
Yes, a rough order of magnitude. And so while Jeremy's developing the solution, I thought that the finance team could work hand in hand to help develop a detailed ROM to make sure the client understands, about what this would cost.
So 2 things, Dan. I noticed you have a yellow for strategic alignment. And going through what they're asking for, 2 things come to mind. A, this is for vegetables, and who doesn't love vegetables? So I think we can all get behind that. Second, we're definitely the leader in category management. Like this is what we do. So we definitely have the lead there. Now, category management, doing the implementation work, we can do all of that. The supply chain work is probably a little iffier. So I think we're going to need to find a partner.
Well, thanks for backing me on that, Jeremy. I agree. It's right in our wheelhouse. It's definitely strategically aligned to us. On the supply chain side, I have been talking with one teaming partner that is world-class in vegetable supply chain. Now, they haven't committed to me yet, but I am making some progress in that anyway.
So what do we know about, is this small? Is it large? Do we know what, is it full and open? What do we know about this?
So there's no indication, but from my perspective, given that this is a strategic initiative from GSA, it's very important, it's a new program, I expect this to be coming out large. Now, the draft SOW did not indicate that it was a small business sources sought, or it didn't mention small business at all. So I think that they're still looking, there's a potential it could go as a small business set aside, but at this point, I'm moving forward with teaming agreements to add large business and small business to our team as needed.
I know, Dan, you mentioned needing a ROM out of finance. I have some concerns because, one, we don't cover all the functional areas, so we're going to need some support from that other partner. And then we don't know about anything about their rates. Do they have an existing schedule that we'll be able to leverage? How do they fit? If we are going to prime, they're going to sub. Then I'm concerned if the government in this case is looking for our rough order of magnitude. What does that mean? Does that mean they need this information for their own budgeting purposes? I mean, how real is this vegetable management system opportunity? These are my concerns.
Right. I think those are valid concerns. There's no indication of whether this ROM is for cost estimating or whether they can fit it in their budget for this year. But as the business development lead, if the customers ask for it, I think we need to respond.
It'd be great. We've been doing this work for a long time and really do it well. Do you think we could go in and meet with them, help them refine their requirements, and really do this right?
Definitely. I think now that they've issued a draft SOW, we all know that the RFP is not out yet, so we should still be able to meet with them. And that is tops on my list of next steps.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, especially on our dashboard. You have the opportunity call plan. Execution is red, and I'm assuming Mr. To-Go is unavailable?
Yes. He is a big proponent of work from home. So he tends to work from home sometimes, and I'm working on it. I am.
Okay, so we really need to figure out how we get some meetings. I think Jeremy and Delivery's right on. We need to understand what the real requirements are, and maybe there's some things we can help them with, and understanding to get more requests for proposals by shaping those up.
Well, and I also see that we've green lighted already the BMP funding costs. We haven't gotten that far yet, Dan. Are you writing a check this time, or do I have to go ask Mr. Sell again?
Well, it is February. It's early in the year, so I saw, that we still have budget left for a bid and proposal. But yes, maybe I should have left that blank.
Dan, do you have any idea on the size of this? I mean, my folks are pretty committed at this point. We've got a lot of work at USDA and other places. How many FTE do you think this could be?
So the VMSS, I think this could be 50 FTEs. I mean, this is a new strategic program at GSA to really, put vegetables in their right categories. So I really believe that they're going to need some real support. And so 50 FTEs would be a major deal for us.
And what's the total revenue on that one, Dan?
So I think it's probably over the 4 years, I think it's about 30 million.
30 million.
Yes.
30 million. Wow. And that makes me a little concerned about whether that would be large business or not over 4 years, right? It seems like it could be the right size for possibly small, but maybe it's complex enough that it needs a large. I'm not certain on that. But let me ask you a few other questions about our teaming partners, because I see that we're not 100% match there.
Right.
And I really want to dive down, especially if they go schedules right, where we have to look for our partners.
So Vegetable Logistics, Inc. is the one partner I'm looking at for our supply chain partner, and they really know the ins and outs of carrots, potatoes, tomatoes, even though some people call them fruits. We're considering them vegetables here. They know that in and out, and we will need them on the team.
And they are already on schedule, and they've got a good price for carrot specialist level 2.
So I would leave that to the finance team to validate that. I really haven't gone that deep.
All right, so we would have to execute have we executed any NDAs with these companies yet so we could have further discussions with them?
Yeah, so we have NDAs. I don't have any draft teaming agreements, but it's new. This just came out on Friday afternoon before the holiday, and here we are on Tuesday.
Right, and that NDA would be non-disclosure agreements?
Correct, yes.
Hey, Jackie, I'm assuming we're going to get a pretty good slice of the work share since we're priming this. But if that means we're finding, 35 to 40 FTE, I'm definitely going to need your help. My folks are busy, so maybe we can get HR started on this right away and get some position descriptions out there and just start to try to get some people located too.
Yeah, I think at 30 million, I think we really need to address the partner situation and make sure we have a really good handle on that. And I think we need to work with our small business team. Let's make sure that we look at our partners that could possibly fit into this as well. And have any other vendors contacted us or notified us? I mean, they should know about our asparagus capability. I mean, I think they want us in there.
Right. Well, our main competitor, Must Sell, they contacted me and let me know that I should just forget about it because they're all over it. But the small businesses have not been reaching out to me. I will be reaching out.
Do you think that's because they're putting together their own responses? Has anybody asked us to be potentially behind them?
No one has asked us to be behind them. No.
I don't know, Jackie. What do you really think?
Okay, audience, let's hear Jackie's real thoughts before she voices it.
These are my inside thoughts, and I won't say this out loud in front of the board, but I'm really concerned, right? The timing of the RFP, I don't know what kind of task order this is. Is it firm fixed price? Is it going to be T&M? And what does GSA need this for? Why are they asking for the wrong? And I wish I knew exactly. Is it a budget process, or are they trying to help the acquisition folks and the rest of the team know what they can afford? And I don't understand why Mr. To-Go stays at home all the time. We need to really get in there and understand what is going on there. And I wish we could get a meeting. And to me, I want to interpret that as maybe they are not interested in us. Maybe there's another vendor that they're looking at. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then our key personnel, for us to respond. If we're going to have a quality response to help GSA get what they need, right, we're going to have to take some folks and have them work late nights to go and do this stuff while they've got their busy day jobs. And, GSA's just been such a great client to us. I hate to miss this opportunity, but Mr. Sell has really been putting pressure on me on a lot of these RFI responses that have never come to fruition. And we've invested precious investment dollars to go forward. He's counting on me to help build this company, and I'm just concerned.
So let's now hear Mike's real thoughts.
Well, I can only imagine what's going on in Jackie's head. First, we haven't gotten in front of the client. We have limited number of partners, but I really rely on her input. She's guided our firm in a growing direction, positioned us well for opportunities, found the right people. She really keeps the team together. Jeremy, on the other hand, I'm going to need people from his side of the organization to, one, help me how to cost this thing. As also, I'm going to be beating him up in a program management review because his billings are going to be down, and he's not going to be able to meet his profitability targets for the month. And Dan, here we are yet again, padding his stats for a sales opportunity. He's got goals, I understand that, but he's not the one who's going to have to sell to Mr. Sell. I'm going to have to sell this to Mr. Sell, and he's the one who put his name on our company board. But the devil's in the detail, so I'm really going to have to try to figure this out. Let me do some math here. All right, so Dan says this is a $30 million opportunity, so there's no way. This has got to be maybe a $20 million opportunity at best. Over 4 years, so that's about $5 million a year. We do roughly about 5% profit, and so that gives us about $250,000 in potential profit for the year. Now, at this stage, I'm going to have to present to Mr. Sell. Jackie and I usually go into these meetings. I'm really going to need her help on this one because all I have to work with at this stage, because it's an RFI, we don't know that much information. We don't know what the evaluation criteria are yet. We don't know if we're going to be priming or subbing. But there's potential future revenue. So we have about $225,000 to work with here. So I only have $25,000. Now, that's what we'll be able to green light with Mr. Sell. So if we back off, let's see, we talked about Jeremy's team. So I need input from his team. So I'm going to have lost billings. So I have about $7,500 worth of lost billing because I'm going to be taking people off contract. I can't charge the government if they're helping to write this RFI response. So I have that money. Then, if I have that cost, I got to put it somewhere. So that's overhead. Because that cost has to be absorbed somewhere, right? So that's another $7,500. On top of that, they asked me for a rough order of magnitude. Good thing I can do this back of the envelope math very quickly, but I'm only doing that very quickly. So we need support from finance because we need pricing people. We need to do some market analysis. We have to compare ourselves and our prices and even evaluate these other teaming partners. And that's going to be another at least, let's say it's $3,000. And then we mentioned teaming partners. So we have to have at least an NDA to cover the financial data that we're going to be providing via the subcontractor. And ultimately, we're going to be working draft teaming agreements. So that's stress on our legal department. That's going to be stress from our contracts team going back and forth. And that's real cost. So we'll put subcontractors. And that's an additional, well, our legal team's very expensive. Mr. Sell's wife is our legal counsel, and she's got a high billing rate, so that's to be another $10,000. So if I add this all up, $28,000. It's $28,000 of cost at this point, and I only can get usually a green light with Mr. Sell of around $25,000. Now, granted, there's 4 years of future revenue, which is a much larger target, but it's hard to place our bets at this point. I don't know what I'm going to do.
All right. So I think, Dan, what we need to do from a capture standpoint is let's look at those action items at the bottom here, right? So we need to really get in and meet with the customer. So we need to set up some meetings and make sure Mr. To Go is Mr. To in the office. And then let's talk to the competition and possibly we need to up our teaming partners if we're going to really have that value proposition back. And then obviously we need to write the RFI response. Team, what do you?
Okay, so audience, here's where we want to throw this out to you. All right, what would you do? Would you move this deal forward? Would you take a chance and spend that money to move this forward and get a draft RFP response in? Or would you kill it? Let me see how many people would move it forward. No one? One? All right. Two? Okay, we'll take it. How about those who want to kill it? Hands for killing it. Okay, a few. And then the rest of you, indecisive, not sure what we're going to do? Got it. All right, well, we've decided to move it forward. We're going to go ahead and take the chance, only because we love Dan, right? So we're going to take the chance, we're going to move it forward. Now that
Charismatic salesman, that Dan.
Now that we've made that commitment, there are a few things that we want you guys to take away from this first scenario. The first piece of this is that companies are really reluctant to invest their bid and proposal, what we call BMP funds, On RFIs, if we don't have advanced knowledge, so this is an important piece for you all. If we haven't had any customer interaction, it's very hard for us to move something forward. When we qualify a deal, we're looking for, do we know the customer and does the customer know us? That's very important. Also, if we're looking at this, if we're not on an agency procurement forecast, we don't know if the budget's real. This is a big deal, because if it's not real and we're just getting market information in, market survey information, or putting in responses that we don't even know whether it's coming out, that's a loss of that funding that we cannot put to another opportunity. And then, of course, if there's no market indications, if nobody's calling us to team, if that's a real big flare for us. So those are some of the things we want you to think about. The other couple of things are, the more information we have, the earlier, the more likely you're going to get a response. That's from the technical perspective. It's also from the acquisition strategy. If we know where that's coming out and we know that we can actually prime it, that helps tremendously. We need to make sure we have either the vehicle or the opportunity to prime, and if not, then we know that we have to team. And knowing that early allows us to really set our strategy for bidding this opportunity. The last but not least one is opportunity costs exist throughout the whole program, right? I mean, we're looking at this as early as an RFI stage, and actually even earlier than that. Dan's been pounding the streets and hitting up Starbucks, every other day, trying to find someone that he wants to talk to. All of those are opportunity costs. And so those opportunity costs start early, and they go all the way through submittal. And so we want you guys to realize that this number that he's showing you was just for the response of the draft. And so think about that when you're going into a proposal where proposal costs are a lot more. So we just want to throw those takeaways out to you. With that, let me go ahead and open it up for questions. Do we have any questions first in the audience? All right. Well, let me go ahead and start here then with some questions. The first one, I'm going to throw this one out to Mike, who is playing our CFO today. Mike, what makes it difficult to do a ROM at this stage?
We have limited information. We have 7 functional areas. We don't know the place of performance. It's something we didn't discuss. We have to rely on other partners, have concerns in being able to share the data. Now, granted, we'll put something as a disclaimer that says this is only for government evaluation purposes, but putting any of your financial data out there is always makes you nervous. We really don't know the customer. We don't know the pain points, so we don't know what is going to be our specific technical approach to respond to this. It sounds like something that we do, but it seems like it's just an artificial target on Dan's board. Anybody else have anything else they want to add?
I do. I just want to add that, in this industry and our business, credibility is really important. And so we take the time in my organization and the company I work for, which is a large business, is to really work that build up. And it takes quite a few analysts and engineering folks and delivery folks for us to really pull all that together so that we put, it's not 100% accurate on the T, but it's very close to help the government understand what this number is actually going to look like. So there's a big investment on our part to make sure that we have good numbers going into it.
Okay. Oh, Jeremy?
Just really fast, too. I think sometimes, like this one had a 3-week turnaround, which was a good amount of time, too. But oftentimes we'll just see RFIs or sources thought with a week or less, to respond to. So if you're in a larger organization like Jackie's, then in terms of getting a whole team together and getting the CFO suddenly involved in a really quick turnaround RFI response, it just doesn't work in kind of large machines to be able to get everyone and use their time wisely.
And there's expectations. With the limited knowledge that we have of what this thing is going to be, we don't want to send a price that's too high or too low.
Okay, so Jeremy, I want to go back to timing. So on the timing issue, timing for this was 3 weeks. That's awesome. But sometimes when it comes out, that timing is very important. Can you talk just a minute about the timing of when and how B&P works?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we struggle with the same thing that government does in terms of working under continuing resolutions, right? So it's never a great time, and the further it gets pushed towards the end of the calendar year, just like your own budgets, it's the harder it is to carve out B and P dollars then for that specific opportunity. So the later it gets into your fiscal year, that B and P money is gone, and so then it's harder to pursue those. You guys have heard it before too. I think oftentimes things come out right before government goes on a holiday. And so then it puts industry people working through the holiday to try to do the response, because you start thinking, especially from a teaming perspective, before you even share the statement of work with them, you've signed a non-disclosure agreement, so they can't send it to somebody else. So that means their lawyers reviewed our NDA to make sure that they're okay with it. We get all the signatures on it. We share the statement of work with them then, or the RFP or RFI, whatever's out. Then there's a teaming agreement. We have to come to some sort of work share divide. So there's a lot of work that has to happen throughout the process, either before it happens or as soon as it comes out and we start putting that team together. So there's just a lot of time and a lot of different players in the organization involved.
So, Dan, let me ask you, what more would you want to see in the RFI or draft stage?
So what would have been ideal is to have the L&M section in the draft, and that way we would know exactly what the evaluation criteria, what they're looking for. We would know if they're looking for commercial expertise, they're looking for folks that have done this at GSA. What is that evaluation criteria? And then I think on the pricing side, if they are asking for a ROM, in this scenario, they didn't have much information around how to provide that ROM. So if they're going to ask for a ROM, include almost all of the pricing details they're going to ask for in the RFP, so that people can, provide a ROM that will match, that will inform you and match what the RFP is going to look like.
Thank you.
So can I add something to that?
Okay, sure.
Real quick here. Because I think it's important as we go through, when an RFP hits the street, then there's questions that are asked by industry, right? And then there's answers that come back from the government. We can get an RFI that has more information. You'll start seeing from the responses maybe inconsistencies in the RFI that industry can help clear up, so that when the RFP comes out, it will go much smoother without delay to make sure that the work is awarded in a timely fashion.
Thank you. And Jackie, why don't you keep that mic?
I love the mic. Thank you, Kim.
One of the questions we have for you is, if there's an incumbent, there's an incumbent, would you still respond to the RFI?
So that's a really good question. I think for us, and we'd have to know a lot more about the performance of the incumbent, and is this just a natural term of the contract coming up? Is the contract being terminated early? An option isn't being exercised? There's a lot of information we want to gather to kind of see what the intimacy is with that client. But I mean, in most chances, if it's within what I would say our I'm going to call it a swim lane or our core competency, and we're really strong about this, we more than likely would respond.
Okay, and I'm going to throw one more question out, and then we're going to get into scenario 2. If I haven't answered your question, I promise to come back at the end. But Dan, this one's for you. And so one of the questions we have here is, to what extent do you actually speak to your possible competitors about an opportunity? What is the purpose? What is the type of communication that you have? And depending upon the level of interest of your competitors, how does that affect your decision?
Okay, so we speak with our competitors more than you would think, especially on the business development side. And I'd say even within companies, the companies often don't realize how much their business development folks speak with other folks in the industry. It's a very small industry, and people, especially when something's out on the street, and especially you'll know if you're well positioned for the deal if everyone's calling you and they're like, hey Dan, what's going on here? I saw this part. And so the more calls you get, the better off you are generally. And so that's why some of the other executives here were asking me, hey, who's calling you? What's happening? Are the small businesses calling you? Because sometimes they'll get indications from other teaming partners or from incumbent staff or what have you that this one firm looks really good. So yeah, we definitely talk a lot.
All right, thank you. One thing that we did receive from a question perspective, and we'll work with the GSA team, but we were asked if there are any cheat sheets that help us get through, generic cheat sheets, that help us get through these bid decisions, whether or not to move them forward. Most companies have what we call a qualification I hate the word checklist, but I'll use it for now. But a qualification checklist, did we match all of that? If we didn't, do we have paths forward to actually get to positive on those things? We have the same in the development piece, and then of course, on the proposal, they're very formal, but they're very customized to the actual proposal, the solicitation that comes out. With that, I do want to thank the one participant who gave us positive feedback about using vegetables today. Thank you very much. We know it's ridiculous too. And so with that, let me go ahead and move on. We're going into scenario 2. And with scenario 2, it's 8 weeks later. 8 weeks, 2 short months. Dan's only been in 1 golf tournament since then. So it's very short time frame. But guess what? The RFQ just came out. And so the final RFQ was released by GSA through eBuy on the PSS schedule. And so with that SOW, with that procurement, the SOW didn't really change. There was nothing there that really made a difference from that perspective. However, the proposal came out as a set aside for small business, and it's due in 30 days. The questions are due back in 7 days, and Dan has to get back in front of this gate review process, in front of the executives, to figure out exactly what this e-cell company wants to do. Jackie?
All right, so hi, Dan. I see that you're back again.
I'm back.
And based on our stage and gate review here, it looks like the RFQ is hit. So let's make sure we have a quorum, right? Delivery, finance, capture, we're all here, very good. So capture manager Dan, why don't you update us?
Okay, so Vegetable Management Support Services, the RFP has dropped. It's live, except it is a small business set aside. So we have no opportunity to prime.
Really had to pulse on this one, Dan.
Okay, so let me, let's talk about teaming. So I have been doing a lot of teaming partner negotiations and conversations, and we did have 2 teaming agreements signed. You know, our legal team was on that as for subcontractors with PMRS and Programmix. So I now have identified 4 potential partners that would be prime and where we could be sub. So I would like to walk through those and maybe start with questions before that.
Yeah, let me just ask, so did the RFI ever mention that it would go small business?
They never mentioned that it was a source of SART for small businesses, or even in the advanced procurement forecast, it was not listed as a small business.
So how
set
far
aside.
did you get with all the teaming agreements and all the NDAs? And you got it set up as if we were the prime and they were going to be the subcontractors or
That's right.
CTAs,
So
right?
we had a signed teaming agreement with PMRS, and we were going to give them, I think, 20% of the work share, and also with Programmix, and I think they were going to get 10% and some swim lanes.
So now they need to really reissue those teaming agreements back to us and put it on their paper and not our paper, right? So we got to redo all this again, right?
Right. And I think then, you know, we need to choose between, you know, the PMRS and Programmix they're not going to join the same team. So they're both decided to prime, and now we need to decide if we're going to be on one of their 2 teams. And there's also a couple other smalls that have reached out to us, and one, Altitude, has offered us significant work share of 45%. So there's,
Well, 45% of losing is really 0, right? So what are we going to do there?
well, I'd like to present good options here. I agree. I mean, we have made progress with PMRS and with Programmix, and my inclination would be to go with them. PMRS still hasn't given us indication of what type of work share. So Programmix has offered us basically 1/3 work share. It's nothing in writing yet, but those are informal conversations. PMRS is still finalizing their team, and will be getting back to me by tomorrow.
So both can meet the evaluation criteria, correct? So both could be viable primes.
Correct. So I think that Programmix has a bit more capabilities. They also hit the supply chain capability, but I'm thinking about bringing our Vegetable Logistics Inc. partner to the table as well, and potentially have them as another subcontractor with PMRS.
Limiting our work share.
Dan, do you think, since this came out small business, we're great, but does GSA not think that?
Well, the RFP is unchanged. The SOW is unchanged. So the technical solution that your team wrote really did not influence them. I don't know. This may have just been a source of thought for small. I'm not quite sure what happened.
So when our RFI response in, and I think I remember us giving, after reviewing it, a couple of suggestions and some things. Did we see that in the RFP, or was it basically unchanged?
It's complete. The RFP is word for word to the SOW, no changes.
Well, I still think we're still in this, as pessimistic as I see your faces over here, delivery lead and CFO, but I think we're still in it. We still have a portfolio. We have complementary work, right? But can we do a CTA with PMRS? I don't think that's the case.
No, we can't. We would have to be a small business for us to both be able to be viable primes. What about the rates, Dan? Are we going to be able to fit our highly priced carrot specialist level 2 that you made me put together in the ROM? We actually
Right.
be able to fit under their end price?
That is a key point. I've left that blank on this slide because I need the finance team to really look closely. It looks like it will fit, but the devil's in the details. You got to get down to years of experience, all of that. So if your team could look at that.
More cost. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
Although you did say this is fixed price, correct?
No, it came out time and materials.
Okay. Yeah. Right again, Dan. Good. Okay.
So, Mike, I think I need to ask, we probably need to run a finance check on these guys. I need to make sure they're all in good standing, right? We have a very good name with GSA. I don't want to get under a situation where maybe they don't have the right finances to be able to go after something this large.
We'll likely be pay when paid, so that means we're not getting anything until they're paid, and if they've ever gotten an invoice out the first time and made sure it's done correctly, we could be seeing 60, 90 days before we'd see any payments.
Dan, are we pretty confident on these 4 teams? We do have a sub that we've been working with at USDA, and so, we've got a good relationship already, and they're in the space. Can we think of them, or are we pretty locked in at this point?
Aren't they more fruit management systems instead of vegetable management services?
Yeah. Also, I don't think they responded to the RFI, and I don't even know if they got the RFP directly. So I think that Altitude and Super PM both, have been in there. They've talked to the customer. They're good options if for some reason we can't, close a teaming agreement on the flip side of the teaming agreement with the 2 partners that we've already been working with.
Well, I got to tell you on this Altitude, right? They've been at OMB and NIH. I'm not exactly sure the vegetable situation is healthy over there, maybe at NIH. So I'm not sure about all this past performance. And, the Super PM, if they haven't been there in the last couple of years, what is our past performance requirement? Is it 3 years or 5 years?
So for this one, it's 5 years, and the question mark, they were reluctant to provide me with their CPARs, and so I'm not sure why they haven't been there in the past 2 years, but that is a question mark.
And PMRS and Pragmat.
Programmix.
Thank you very much. And so, do you have an indicator on their past performance? Are they good?
Yes, both of them have strong past performance. I would say Programmix is, slightly stronger, but both
All
are
right.
strong.
I know that Mr. Sell is very high on this analytics and making sure that we really beef up our capability, right? So I like the idea that we could probably fit into that. Jeremy, I just need to find out from delivery, where do we stand on that?
Well, Jeremy, are we hearing your thoughts?
how did we ever become a mid-tier company with discussions like this and opportunities like this one? So it definitely was not from business development. It's operations and all of our good past performance and all the great work we've been doing for agencies. But, you know, on this particular opportunity, let's just think about this. We have a CTA team lead, we've got a CTA partner, and now we're a subcontractor. So how is my carrot specialist 2 ever going to fit into the rates now as a subcontractor? So how am I supposed to give them my best people and get a good CPARS on this? So now I'm a little nervous about delivery. We're working with a partner that we've never worked with before, and let's be honest, we've got some secret sauce around vegetable management. So now more companies are going to have our secret sauce than just our one partner at USDA. You know, I'm going to have to reach out to some of our past performance clients, get them to fill out a questionnaire. You know, they don't really like doing it, so now I have to call in a favor to get this, because any of these partners are definitely going to need our past performance. So I don't really like this opportunity, but you know, I think Dan's job is on the chopping block. So I think he needs the numbers on his pipeline. It's the end of the quarter for us. Jackie's going to be doing my performance review, so I don't want to be the no guy. So I'll go along with it.
Dan, how about your thoughts?
My real thoughts? Do I have real thoughts? Do they understand that my name is on the line? Not my job. This is my credibility. This is a small industry. I've already promised PMs R Us that we're gonna team. You know, they're my friends. This is a small, small world. GSA is an important client for us. We have got to support one of these small businesses and continue on this deal.
All right. So with that, back to the audience. What would you do? Would you continue to move this deal forward, or would you kill it? Let me see move forward. Anybody moving forward? 1. Okay, awesome. Any kill it? Better. How about indecisive? Not sure what to do at this point. 1. You're right. So, with that, we are indecisive. We're really not sure. We didn't have enough information yet because we do not have a prime, a small business yet signed to do this deal. But do we want to really kill it? We've invested time, we've invested money, and to become a sub on a team that we know that we can get work share on, should we continue to go after it? So basically, I think where we are right now is if we can find a credible prime and we can get the work share we need, then we will move the deal forward. If not, we're going to go ahead and kill it and leave it at that and cut our losses. And so with that, for the bid, no bid decision, we're really kind of at a place right now where we're on hold until Dan, our friend Dan, can get us to the right teaming agreement.
That's right. That's right. It's all up to me.
Awesome. So
You brought us to this dance.
So with that, and we want to go ahead and look at, because we are in this indecisive mode, we want to look at a few key takeaways for you all. First one, you know, advanced knowledge of a set-aside status will help expedite teaming for us on this side. If we would have known this was a small business set-aside, we would have treated it as such, we would have continued to move it forward, but we would have moved it forward in the ability to be a sub on this. Now, I know that there are questions around CTAs. First, when we talk teaming in a general sense here, we're talking about coming together in partnership to form the best team to do the work. But CTAs did arise during our role play. And with that, we have to look at every option and whether or not it's even viable in that option. The CTA was not viable for this deal, moving that forward. But with that, you know, when you're building an RFI or you're looking at a draft, the more information you can give us up front to get to that prime sub role will allow us to make sure that you're getting the best team for the best executable contract. And that's what everyone's looking for. Second thing on this, until the RFQ is released, government and industry can and should be communicating, whether written, oral, through, industry days, whatever the case may be, but this will ensure that you get the best possible competition and the best possible solution for the client. And that's an important piece here to remember, because we'll kill a deal just because, remember the two factors. Does the government know us? And do we know them? And if we haven't talked to them or communicated, that's when a lot of the deals are put aside and we do not move them forward. Regardless of the prime sub role, companies match their business risk with investment and potential revenue. You have to remember, eCell is now going in as a sub, but they already have quite a bit of cost in and sunk into this, where they're 250,000. That number's coming way down now that they're a sub, and so they have to weigh out the risk with that investment each time, and that's something that we think through very heavily from the industry side, whether or not it's a good bid. With that, let me go ahead and open up to some questions. And so we're going to start with some questions. The first one, I really want to go ahead and ask, Jeremy, you want to take this first one? Basically, the question is what resources does this take to actually put the proposal together?
So every company is structured a little differently. Those of you who've worked with small businesses or have been in small businesses, everybody wears 4 or 5 different hats to be able to do something. So you may be working a project and writing a proposal and trying to do business development and trying to manage hours. So it just kind of depends. But you'll see a lot of organizations will have, capture, they'll have business development, they'll have a proposal shop. And then their technical SMEs are all out actually working for you guys. They're in agencies delivering services. So it's either pulling them away from the client to help write a proposal, or using their evening or their weekend hours to be able to develop the technical content. When you get into teaming, then it can even become more complicated. So you may be part of a team where you're the sub, the prime decides they're just going to write it all, they're going to get you some data calls, and you give them past performance and pricing, and that's the only thing you have to do as a sub. There are others, there's some monstrous ones, where there will be 13, 30 different teaming partners, and every other day you're getting a data call from the prime about information they want for the proposal. And it just sucks up a lot of resources. There are other situations where you could be the sub, and the prime is really relying on you to provide a lot of the content. And so again, there's this juggling act, and there's a lot of time and resources that go forth to proposal development, regardless of prime or sub.
Anyone want to add to that?
I would just say that it is this balance, as to the last point on how we look at these things, this balance of what's the investment versus what's the potential. And so sometimes, I just had a deal a couple weeks ago where we thought we had an agreement with a prime, and then as we started working the proposal, it turned out that they really were looking for us to do all the work. And that gave me indication that they were not going to win because they didn't know how to actually do the work. And so we killed the deal. And the guy who was running business development for me, like I was saying, was kind of upset because he had committed and the team had committed, but it was a losing proposition. So I think it's this, and it was going to cost a lot of money to go after it, right? So that maybe they would win, there's 10% chance or something. But that, as a sub, especially as a sub, you're looking, what are they asking you to do, and is that commensurate with kind of what the work share is and what the win probability is?
We show the scenarios focused on one opportunity. This is stacked against, some cases, 10s, 20s, 100 other opportunities. And we're balancing our ability to win probability, with what revenue we're going to get. And that's a weighted average amount. So in the RFI stage, when we looked at the scenario when we could prime, it was, despite what our win probability, still low because you just don't know enough, but the revenue was much higher. Now as we move further down, we're now more vulnerable, and we have less revenue that we can acquire. So where this deal would stack up against the others is the real opportunity cost.
Dan had a real benefit that this was a 2-act play.
Yeah.
So just real quick, so I run an organization that I have a bunch of business developers that are running around there, and I can't tell you how many times I get a deal presented that says the incumbent is performing poorly, therefore we're going to win. I mean, it must be every deal that I see, and I'm like, really? It can't be every deal that everybody is performing that poorly, but it's in that business developer's best interest to try to persuade us to go after these. So we have to figure out, so I pretty much have a forecast, as an example, going into this year of 18, of all the deals that I really know that we have a pretty good chance at, or the ones I really believe that the company needs to, what I would call swing the bat at. Really big deals that we are just going to invest and go after, because we probably have a good chance, not 100% chance, of winning those. But when these bluebirds come up or these other things, I have to really weigh where we're going to invest those dollars and where does it really make sense, and especially where do we have those relationships where it may make sense for our clients to get those responses from us.
Right, and just on a quick note, we tell our BDers this all the time because we call it puffery, right? There tends to be some puffery because they're excited about a deal. And so we always tell them, win probability is only 100%. So if there's an incumbent and the incumbent says they have 90% chance of winning, and you're telling me you have 50% chance of winning, and there's 3 other bidders, that's well over 100% chance for any one person, right? So we have to tell them to look at it realistically. If there is an incumbent, what is their realistic ability to win this, including the incumbents as well, because it should only add up to 100% at any given time. And that's something that we have to take into consideration. So when you hear that win probability, that's what we're really talking about from that perspective. I'm going to throw one out here. Okay, go ahead.
One of the questions that came up the first time had to do with...
Oh, Sam's got one.
had to do with LPTA. And I would love some of the things that you brought up about, not knowing the pricing and your carrot specialist too, things like that. Can you comment on whether, if this would have been LPTA, how that had affected things? And particularly, can you comment on what's known in industry as the race to the bottom?
Yeah, I think that it would have been a no bid. I mean, it clearly would have been a no bid, especially since it came out of the small business set aside. It was LPTA. It likely would also have been a no bid if it was stayed large. At least within my organization, we don't bid LPTA generally.
Yeah, so agreed, Dan. We look at things too. We're trying to provide value to the government so that they can get the best possible solution to meet those needs. And when it is if we can determine that it's a price, especially when it gets down to T&M and rate card price, that's a little bit more problematic, and that would definitely be a no bid.
Okay. On that note, since you are a sub, and I hope I get this question right, since you are a sub, would you consider not exclusively going with one team and giving a proposal to multiple teams, so you're backing multiple teams?
Yeah, so I'll take that. So as you all know, in government and as well as industry, resources are scarce. And for us not to be, especially if it's a services type of opportunity, not a product buy, but if it's a services, we only have limited resources that we can what we call firewalling off for each team, meaning that each team, one team is dedicated to vendor A, another team to vendor B, and another team to vendor C. And that's very difficult to do in some organizations when we have very scarce resources, and that becomes very difficult. If it was the right thing, if it was an IDIQ, I'll use that as an example, we happen to be the incumbent and they were going to make multiple awards, we might be able to do something similar, but we wouldn't be able to discriminate ourselves from one team to another because we're trying to help them all, if that makes sense.
And just to add what to Jackie said, I think if that sub is writing a large portion of the technical proposal, then it's going to water it down. When the government evaluates it and they're like, gosh, I've seen this text twice, this isn't very interesting to read the second time. So it's also difficult to be able to do that and to feel like, that you've increased your chances of winning, because it feels a lot of times like you've watered it down instead.
Usually there's a relationship to the amount of work share that you would provide, because if you are on multiple teams, the exclusivity factor usually dictates more work share, because you are making a commitment to a particular team. But if you're being non-exclusive, then that company should expect not the same work share they could get if they were exclusive to the team.
Great, thank you. I'm going to throw this out, and whoever wants to answer it, feel free. It's a tough one. Let's just say this came out other than small. So it was not a small business set aside. How could or how would a CTA then play into this? Do you as a company go out and find teaming partners who have complementary or adjacent capabilities, environment, all of that stuff, and team, before an opportunity even comes out, and then go after things as a CTA? Or do you use CTAs for an opportunity-specific deal?
So I'm going to jump in on this, and hopefully this answers it. But when we go after to solution and opportunity, we're looking at bringing the best possible solution to the government. So whether it's a CTA or whether it's a subcontractor relationship is the way that we're going to go after it. If it happens to be that our teaming partners happen to have a schedule, and this is a cross-schedule, schedules, if I could say that, opportunity, and they happen to have one of the schedules that there is an opportunity for us to do a CTA, then we are definitely going to look at that as an option.
And I don't think we have any pre-positioned CTAs. They're really opportunity specific. They're, to Jackie's point, they're strategic partnerships that you have at a teaming agreement level versus a CTA level. But yeah, we don't have any at the CTA level. Same for you.
Yeah, so the only time that I've seen in some deals is the fact that there may be a benefit to both of you wanting to be in that same pseudo-prime role. So rather that, there's more to offer in being a complementary team member at a CTA level if I'm trying to negotiate with Jackie, because she's not interested in being my sub, or vice versa. So I've seen both parties benefit when they can't really decide who should prime or sub, because both have want to be in that prime position.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. If not, I am going to end with one final question, and we hope this gets to the crux of the whole scenario-based session. So, when do you start teaming, and what are the difficulties around teaming? Dan, you want to start?
So I would say teaming starts with a relationship. So often we'll look to our existing partners, who are we working with today? A deal's, an opportunity comes out, and we'll naturally think of them, and then kind of even, particularly if it's common knowledge on the market, maybe just even have an informal discussion with them if they're interested, and then, do an NDA and then do a TA. So I think a lot of it starts with partnerships. Some of it then, after partnerships, would just be relationships, so people you've worked with in the past. Maybe they left a firm, went to another firm, but you know and trust them. And then, it starts, as soon as you have an opportunity that's in your pipeline, I would say, right? So a pipeline opportunity doesn't have to be public knowledge. It could be something that you know is coming down. It's a reform. It's a new part of an organization. It could be something that's put into an advanced planning forecasting system. Could be an RFI. But as soon as the opportunity is sparked and is part of the corporate sales pipeline, that's when teaming would start.
Excellent. Jeremy?
Yeah, and I agree with everything that Dan said. I think, with the strategic partners, you're trying to find, you're in the same space already, you've got some great past performance together, you have regular meetings to figure out where could we use this past performance in another agency and deliver comparable value. And so from that perspective, the teaming, there may not even be an opportunity. You may be creating an opportunity or looking for opportunities when you start that. And so much of it, just like our personal and professional lives, it's the relationship, how well have you worked together over the years. As mentioned earlier in the role play about invoicing, and how fast you're going to get paid once the services are delivered. Even working the NDA and TA, do you get a bunch of track changes back where they're asking for a lot of license or insurance changes, or do you get, basically a partner who's like, yeah, we're in this together and we're going to go after this. So I think it's just so much the personalities and the relationships that work well.
Great, thank you. Anything to add from Jackie or Mike?
So I would just say that it's in my book, it's all about winning. Win, win, win. We never carry the loser on our head. So and I get that quite a bit. But strategic relationships are really important, but it's also about the gaps. And I mean, I don't care how big you are out there. Our company is very large. We don't do everything, and neither does any other company out there. So what helps is when we see Section B in the price plans, and we also see what L&M is, where those gaps are, so that, and key personnel, as to where our partnerships will, what key folks out there can help us fill those gaps that are stellar folks.
We look at every opportunity as how are we not going to lose. It's very hard to win in many, many, many different opportunities based on, you have your core capabilities. So as you put out opportunities to influence the greatest competition, we on our side of the fence are sitting here trying to do pretty much the absolute opposite. How are we going to actually win this? How are we limiting competition, whether it's a set aside or eval criteria or what's in the SAL itself? And from there, we balance the gaps that Jackie was just talking about. So at each opportunity, we're looking at where we can place our bets. My firm's a small firm. We concentrated on all prime contracts for our own longevity when we started 10 years ago. But now we mature and we look at different opportunities. I call it growing the middle. We can be, just because we have 18 prime contracts to date, doesn't mean we can't be a good partner. And so now we look at complementary areas on where we can fulfill, and that becomes the relationship. So you're teaming all the time. Teaming in the same footprint against your competitors, literally teaming in a different customer base where and I'm one prime holder, another partner is a prime holder. They literally called me because we had a prime schedule somewhere else, and we compete against each other every day. So teaming is happening all the time.
Great, thank you. And so I'm going to leave you with one word. It's a made-up word. You won't find it in Webster's dictionary anywhere. It's called co-opetition, and that's cooperating within the competition, and it happens every day for teaming purposes. With that, I'd like to thank the actors on stage. Thank you so much from eCell, and thank you, audience.
Yes, thank you indeed, audience. Now, as you may have seen in the program, we'll take a rather extended break. Let's get back together here at about 1:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And you know what that means in the Central? I'm kidding. 1:15 Eastern Time. Let's get back together. I promise we'll have a special guest to make it well worth your while to come back to here at the last session.
I've never seen such a